Welcome, everyone, to Make Your MSP Stand Out with Exceptional Client Training. I'm Jeff Ferris, President and CEO of CloudRadial. I'm here today with Chip Reeves, President of Bigger Brains.
Hey,
Welcome,
Jeff.
Chip.
Hey, thanks. Glad to be here.
So we're going to give just a second here for everybody to join in, but we'll go through some slides for people that are already CloudRadial customers. Some of this may be familiar, but you may have seen training in CloudRadial before. But today we're really going to cover why it's such an underutilized asset for you to really supercharge your MSP. And want to start off with a couple of things. First off, one of the things behind CloudRadial is, and again, it's one of the things that we've done with a number of clients, and probably none tighter and deeper than with Bigger Brains, then put together basically a single pane of glass that basically an MSP can use to bring all of their client touch points together in a single pane of glass. And so we integrate with numerous industry partners, people that I said most MSPs would be familiar with. But the important thing is that what this does is really allow us to bring together expertise. So this is what your client sees that you may present to your clients on a day-to-day basis. But behind the scenes is a lot of information that's pulled together from all these disparate sources to pull in all the right experts to help solve the IT challenges and the growth challenges you have for your clients. So we're going to bring together expertise not only from yourself, from our team, and not only from people like Bigger Brains, but we're also going to bring it together from your clients as well. And so what we're going to do with CloudRadial is drive that collaboration, create that single pane of glass that you can use as a collaboration platform, as a work platform, presentation platform, to bring together all this disparate expertise into one single pane of glass, one tool that you use to work with your clients on. One of the things that as you pull all this together, all this expertise into a single pane of glass, one of the best benefits of CloudRadial is it opens up the gateway to capturing more client budget. And as we've worked with numerous MSPs from the mom and pops all the way up to the large top 25 MSPs, what we find is what differentiates the MSPs, smaller in the scale, upper in the scale, is how much of the client budget for IT technology that they're capturing. And it's not necessarily that the larger MSPs use a different tool set than the smaller MSPs, because they typically don't. The tools the smaller MSPs use to deal with ticketing, to deal with security, deal with Office 365 are all the same tools that much larger MSPs use. The difference in revenue is usually attributable to how much client budget they're capturing from each of their clients. And basically, with more budget, you can create a more sophisticated solution, a richer solution for your clients. So let's talk about the three buckets of budget as we see them. And basically, the first of these is managed technology. It's managing the endpoints, the servers. It's basically the day-to-day stuff. It could be ticket helping people with their computers. It's really managing those endpoints, managing the access to those endpoints. People is managing, obviously, kind of just what it says, helping the people use those endpoints. And then the last budget is managing outcomes. So let's talk a little bit more about all three. So if you look at managing technology, and there's some keywords down at the bottom. If your conversations with clients are related to those keywords, whether it be security, endpoint, cost saving, stack alignment, at this point in time, you're really in the technology budget. And the technology budget is best viewed as an essentials budget. So your small business owner starts a business, not necessarily to get insurance or IT services or an accountant. Those are the tools they need to be able to run their business just at all, right? And so a lot of MSPs, most MSPs at least do this function for those small businesses. But at this level, what you're dealing with is you're dealing with their essentials budget. And that essentials budget is limited by cost, because again, they don't necessarily see the a huge return on that. Maybe they've been able to offset against the cost of, one person in house or a small team in house. But for the most part, it's just an essentials budget. They have to have it and they'll pay for it. But they didn't start their business to have that, right? So in some ways, it's a solid offering. Every small business needs it, but it also is subject to competition. It's easy to be viewed as a commodity. And so therefore, it's easy to be replaced by somebody that's lesser cost. The managed people budget is a lot different than the technology budget. Most small businesses, one of their largest, if not the largest expense, and I'm sure it is for most MSPs, is the labor cost. And so if you think about the way you build your stack internally, just because, again, an MSP is the typical small business owner. The way you build your stack internally is based on an ROI. So I'm going to buy this tool to save money or to make my technology team more productive. And from that, I don't need to hire as many people. And so that if I invest $1, I'm expecting $1.10, $1.30, maybe $2 back on my investment because it's really driving productivity. And so if you're talking to your clients about productivity, collaboration, decision-making, and especially today, we'll talk about training. If you're talking about any of these terminologies, chances are you're dealing in the people budget. And that people budget is much bigger than the technology budget because, again, this is the single largest expense of most small businesses. Once you get through the people side, you've done a couple of things already. You understand their infrastructure, you understand the way people operate, the way they work internally, what makes them productive, what makes them unproductive. And your business as an MSP is starting to be aligned with their business. And that gets you to the next phase, the biggest budget of all, which is that expand budget, which is the grow budget. And so at this point in time, your small businesses are spending $1 or $3 to make $100, right? They're looking to really invest and grow their business and take their business in new directions. And so this is typically where the role of the VCIO or drop the V, just talk about the CIO. This is where a CIO in an organization really helps drive the business to marry the business needs and outcomes with the technology stack that will help facilitate that growth and evolvement. And so if you're talking to your clients about vision, if you're having board meetings with them, if you understand their acquisition plan, their growth plan, their core initiatives over the next few years, you're in that expand budget. And that expand budget is much, much larger than the first two put together, right? When you're helping a company grow and when you're integral to that company's growth, the budget dollars that a company's willing to allocate to that is much larger. And so those three budgets are kind of the keys. And this brings us back to why training is so vitally important to an MSP. And so we would basically, in a previous life, we would talk about why training helps you differentiate your business, why it helps separate you from competitors. We would talk about why it delivers client value and why it helps you basically increase the value of your offerings to clients to make it more sticky, to make it more integral to the client's business. We talk about training, about the way it reduces support calls inside an organization, the way it really does. Again, a better trained user base is a less calling user base, right? Again, the better trained they are, the less tickets they submit because they already know the answers. And they already know how to do what they're doing. But what we've come to realize, that's not the big draw. These are all great draws, and they pay for training. They make it totally worthwhile to do. And again, as we get into CloudRadial, what it provides integrally, super important. But the most important part about training is it starts the productivity conversation you need to be having with your clients. And so if you think about, if you're managing technology for those clients today, if you're working with them on a day-to-day basis, sometimes it's hard to work up there like, hey, we'd like to be your VCIO too, or hey, who are you acquiring, right? Sometimes it's hard to go from, hey, the printer's broke to let's talk about your long-term acquisition strategy and how we can facilitate that. That's a little bit of a big jump in conversation. And as you work your trust up with your clients, as you build on that relationship and that partnership over a period of time, what really becomes most interesting about training is it starts something simple that becomes very sophisticated, potentially very quickly. So when you talk about training with your clients, what you're basically doing is going through and talking to your clients about how to move their needle, how to deliver real ROI on what they're doing. And it gives you the opportunity to start asking 1,000 questions. If training makes them more productive, what else makes them more productive? Would more applications make them more productive? Would less applications make them more productive? Would gluing together the applications they already have make them more productive? As you get into the training side, it opens up that whole people budget, because now you're starting to align yourself with that client's needs. And one of the hugest mistakes we've seen with our partners is they roll out training in the portal in CloudRadial and they go, ta-da, we have training, but they don't really use that as a gateway vehicle to understand the client better. And so training, I just can't emphasize this enough, is your gateway into that people budget. That people budget is your gateway into that growth budget. Sorry, I'm just running on and on here, but Chip, we were talking about this a little earlier, and you had some comments on this as well.
Well, I totally love the model of the 3 buckets. That's not something I've seen before, but it makes total sense. When we started Bigger Brains, a big part of what we were trying to do is to help MSPs move up the solution stack, right? Because a lot of times, if we're just the network fix-it guy, if we're just the virus removal person, if we're just the person that they call when they have a problem, they kind of mentally put us in a certain place, right? And that's going to pigeonhole the kinds of things that they call us for. And those more lucrative things, like productivity and collaboration, like custom development, like training, like all the VCIO tasks, they don't think of us necessarily in that way. And the great thing about offering training is it starts to position you as being more than just the screwdriver person, right? Somebody that can actually start to show some real productivity benefits for their business. And I love the idea of training helping them to move into that second bucket, because there are other ways to get there. I think you have a great list in the second bucket, but things like collaboration and productivity presuppose 2 things, right? It presupposes, number one, that you've got people on your team as an MSP who have skills to, let's say, customize Salesforce, or to build SharePoint sites, or to do some process automation, whatever you're putting into the productivity and collaboration buckets. But it also presupposes that your customer knows enough to know that those are things that help them, that those are things they need. And most customers don't. Most customers really have a rudimentary understanding of technology. They may see an ad here and there, but for the most part, they have a certain set of apps and features that they've used for however long, and that's just what they're used to. And especially in this era when there is so much productivity out there in the cloud-based apps, whether it's Microsoft 365 or Google Workspace or any of the other cloud-based apps, there's so much opportunity out there. But most of our customers kind of stay in their lane. They don't really, look at what's out there. Even the customers that are paying for Microsoft 365, they have access to all these additional tools. But I can't tell you how many customers I've talked to that have Microsoft 365 that have never heard of Planner, have never used Forms, have never done anything with SharePoint apart from store documents. And there's so much opportunity there, both in terms of revenue for an MSP to be able to, generate more billable time in helping them to use and configure those solutions, but also in the opportunity to grow that relationship and help that client get to a higher level of profitability and success in their own business, which is also, increasing the prestige and the relationship that they have with you. So yeah, I love the 3 bucket analogy. And I do think that training is the easiest way to get started in that second bucket.
Yeah, again, as I've just seen this play out time and time again, training is valued in and of itself. And again, if you're doing training today, if you're providing any training to your clients, it's a huge value add for them and for you, potentially revenue or again, retention. But again, there's so much more opportunity in helping clients figure things out. And you can't figure things out unless you ask the questions. There was a trend, Chip, if you remember years ago, where every Xerox service company, printer service company was moving into the MSP space, right? Yep. And the idea was, hey, we're already going, we're already in their office on a regular basis. So if we're fixing their printer, we can fix their server as well. And some very large companies came out of that. What was fascinating to me, though, is if you've been walking in there with, kind of your name on your shirt as the printer guy, now you walk in and go like, oh, by the way, I'm your CIO. I don't know if you knew that, but I'm your new CIO. I report directly to the CEO of this company. It was a stretch, it was a stretch for clients to make that mental jump from the printer repair guy to the CIO. Right.
Yeah, but back in my early days, I had, because I was an MSP, as you know, for many years. One of my local competitors was both an IT service provider and an accountant that did taxes. And it was just such a weird thing to market. And every time I saw their advertising, I kept thinking, I don't know that I would trust them with either one. If they have to do both to make ends meet, right. I don't know that I trust them with that. And I think that's the problem the Xerox guys have always had, especially because that's such a kind of transactional business. I mean, it's out of toner, it's out of paper, it's rollers. There's very limited things that are happening there. Whereas on the IT side, with software, with the cloud, with everything that's possible in our IT infrastructure, it's much more open-ended. That's a very difficult conversion for them to make. It's not an easy conversion for us to make either, because there is so much to do, and that's why it's important to specialize in a lot of cases. But yeah, it's adding training and adding these higher level pieces and making them available through a platform like CloudRadial, I think does a great job of showing the customer where you can add value and showing the customer the benefit to them too. Because the thing is, nobody wants training and no employer wants training. What they want is they want people that have more skills and more confidence and that are more productive in what they do. And training is a vehicle to get them there. So we sell on the benefits and the outcomes, not on the the steps to get there.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're going to have a webinar in a month or so on the website piece, and it's all part of the same package of conversations with the client, which is aspirational. Right. So what is the aspirations of the client? What's the, it's not, what does the client want to be 2 years out? And how does the MSP help them get there? Right. And that's a great point. They don't want training. Nobody wants to take a training class, right? We want the skills to do our job better, make more money, get promotions. And so the training, either as an employee at the SMB or inside the MSP, or even at CloudRadial, and I assume at Bigger Brains as well, training is that gateway to a better life, right? And so to have that training and have that is essential. But also, I think, again, for MSPs, again, because it's so easy to go in there and get lost. I was talking to somebody today who was giving me another webinar we'll have coming up on QBRs and sales, but got a good insight. So if you think about the initial sales call, there's an IT problem or an IT challenge that drives that initial call. And so when you do come in there, you make the visit, you understand where they're coming from. You say, look, we need to put you on a better plan. We need to put you on better equipment. We need to be more responsive on tickets than your last person. You solve that IT challenge. Right. And so the initial sales call sets up a straw man to sell against. You sell against that IT challenge, and then you come solve that IT challenge. Then what? Right? Then what's next? And a lot of times MSPs will take that initial IT challenge, solve it, turn it into, recurring revenue, but then they fail to exploit the next steps. And again, this goes back to like, how do you, if you're brought in to solve, a bad package of equipment, how do you go back and get that conversation going? Because again, that's what they hired you to do. How do you get that conversation going to that next level where they start to realize you're capable of a whole lot more, right?
Yeah. And next level is exactly how I'd word it too. You're right, because I think what we're talking about is really the next evolution or the next level above the MSP, because it used to be, before the managed services days, if the client called you in to solve whatever that issue was, then your hope was, as an IT service provider, that you do a good job, you make them happy, and then at some future point when they have another problem, they'll think of you and call you. And then with managed services, we got into being more proactive and building more of a relationship with the client, being more responsive and more available, and having more of an ongoing service that we could offer to the clients. And that's been great now for going on 20 years. But then, there's a whole other level above that where, okay, we're proactive, we're taking care of things as they are. Now, how can we make things better? How can we help the client understand the possibilities of what else they could be doing? Because they've got their business to run. They don't understand the technology. They're not the technology experts like we are. It's our job to help them understand. Look at how much more productive you could be. Look at these new markets you could enter into. Look at these new things you could be doing if you were leveraging these technologies. And here's what we'd recommend, and here's how your people can get up to speed on them.
And I think if you look at the trend of the industry is towards consolidation. And I think there's always this issue. It's like, well, if I'm not being consolidated, are the consolidators going to put me out of business or be my competition? And when you're having these conversations about what makes an individual employee productive or what makes the team productive, these are things that require individuals to have these conversations. And you can't have these conversations if you're just managing, 10,000 endpoints and trying to do it in a way that minimizes cost, right? At the end of the day, you have to be engaged with your clients in a conversation to understand where they're going. And that's the biggest benefit. And that's the biggest, the biggest way to retain clients is to be engaged with them, right? Because again, it's hard to service endpoints at a cost that's going to be less than the largest supplier in that space, right?
Sure.
And so this opens that up. I want to go into so we've talked about kind of the benefits of training, but I want to show really how easy it is to do training and offer training to your clients. We showed you the slide earlier in the presentation about what the front of CloudRadial looks like. And again, please, if you haven't seen CloudRadial, or please go to the website and sign up for a demo, because that's the best way to get engaged, just to understand where it fits. But inside of CloudRadial, we do a lot of different things. And one of the things that, I was pleased, Chip and I basically looked at the industry a few years ago and was like, it's not working the way it needs to work. Every MSP should be offering training. What do we need to do that? And so one of the things that we came up with is what we call these mastering courses. And these mastering courses, there's almost now 35 different courses that Chip and his team have put together brilliantly, that are all included for free with CloudRadial. So CloudRadial, it pays for itself a number of different ways, but you could almost make a case that it's just, if you bought CloudRadial and deployed it for training, it pays for itself with the free 35 courses. And then you can easily add on a whole nother tranche of 100+ courses on more subjects, more in-depth information on all the Microsoft pieces, and even more. But from a client perspective, what's going to be really nice is that it's all integrated into your portal under basically your branding. And so when they go to do training, they don't have to go to another portal. They don't have to go somewhere else. They simply go to your portal, the powered by CloudRadial, and they can get to not only the information you're doing to basically, so you don't have to do QBRs or doing all the information that they need to see for ticketing. But now training is a part of that too. It's not, one more link you give them. It is the link, right? And so to sign up for a course, they'll pick from a course catalog. They'll click a button. They'll be able to enroll in that course. Once they're enrolled in the course, they're going to get really solid instruction on how to perform the specific task, whether it's on Teams or Word or Excel or PowerPoint, all of the core Office applications. So your clients, again, from their perspective, will be able to work through this, and they can work through it at their convenience. They don't have to challenge it all the way. We'll keep track of their progress. When they come back to it, we'll pick up where they left off, because some of these courses are again, very complete. And there may be, more than they can fit in the 15 minutes or 30 minutes they have to do a course. If they want to come back a couple of times, we facilitate all that. The benefit is when they get done with that, they get the certificate. So again, it's downloadable, it's frameable. And it's as strange as it seems. I have seen clients where employees have all the different certificates pinned on their bulletin board, right? So it is nice to see how this plays out. And then for the business owners, for the people that pay your bills, then basically at the end of the day too, they can look at any given employee, see what courses they're taking, which ones are required, whether they completed them. We've got it set up so that courses can be required every year. So again, on an annual basis. So when you get into security training or HIPAA training, some of the stuff that's in the premium package that Chip's team provides, you can have this scheduled. And again, your clients will be able to see exactly where their employees stand, which fits number one and overall the core message of collaboration, transparency. So again, when you're working on training, if their employee base is trained better, it's better for your service team, it's better for the business owner. And the best way to get there is for the two of you to collaborate on the approach of how to do that. Again, with these quality of courses built in, it's really a great way to, again, raise the conversation, raise the productivity, differentiate yourself, all the things that training can do, but really engage with that client. We've got a link here that will go through all the courses and packages that are available in Bigger Brains and through CloudRadial. We update our packages quarterly based on Chip and his team's continual involvement. And so there continues to be more free courses on a regular basis. And then the scope of the other courses is always increasing. And they've done an exceptional job of staying current with the myriad of changes that are occurring in Office 365. And so again, this is a great way to, again, take care of training in a way that is very affordable, in a way that gives you the starting point to go forward with clients. And then anything that I've missed there in the Chip that you want to chime in with the brief walkthrough of the slides?
Well, no, I think you covered it really well. The one thing I would add is especially when we're talking about moving into this different bucket, keep in mind that a lot of your customers, especially the larger customers, are already budgeting for training. A large company generally budgets anywhere from $1,000 to $2,000 per year per employee for training. Smaller companies, it may be between $500 and $1,500. And traditionally, that can take many different forms. It might be recertification. It might be going to conferences and workshops, or they might already be paying for a training platform and training software. And if you look at most of the learning management systems in the marketplace, which have a lot of the features that you're getting with CloudRadial, your customers are generally going to be spending several $100s a month just for the software. And on top of that, they're going to be buying the content. So when you have customers in that range, which is generally the customers that are over 100 employees, this becomes a huge cost savings for them, a huge value add. So keep that in mind too when you're talking to them. When you're talking to the smaller customers, oftentimes training is something that they think is out of reach, that's not something that they can do, that's something only for the bigger companies. So you're giving them these tools that big companies offer, and they're able to now afford it as part of their relationship with you on the MSP side to get access to those same kind of employee benefits. So just keep that in mind when you're talking to your customers as well.
That's a great point. And one of the things that you said just really triggered something, which is when you think about, we talk about using training as a gateway to talk about, other services, productivity. When we talk about a business, a lot of times we talk about a business. We don't talk about the different roles and the different people that are inside that business. Now, the small business that are 5 or 6 people, maybe there's just one person you need to talk to, right? In a 20-person firm, there may be 2 people you need to talk to. In the 40-person firm, there may be 3 or 4 people you need to talk to, one of which is the HR. I mean, HR typically is pretty embedded with anybody that's probably 40, 50 plus employees. There's probably somebody that really pays attention to that. And I mean, that's typically where you'll see that function brought in to be internal as opposed to external. And when you're dealing as an MSP is dealing with, the SMB, their client, not everything goes right to the business owner or the office manager or their primary contact. A lot of times the training, just as Chip said, is an opportunity to go get in front of the HR person inside that company, or people that are really focused on the productivity, people that have that role. And it may not always be the CEO, it may not always be the owner, it may not always be the office manager. But one of the things you can do as an MSP is use training as a gateway to get into other sales functions inside there. And remember, you've also got the ability as an MSP through CloudRadial's learning management system, as light as it is, also means it's super easy for your clients to create their own courses. And so again, when you have all of this rich Office 365 content, this other content that's available through the Bigger Brains upgrade, then as you go to talk to as you're dealing with the 40-person firms on up, it's a great way to go in and talk to maybe the sales director. Like, what are you doing to train your salespeople? What are you doing to, as you talk to the marketing people, what are you doing for their first day on the job? How are you bringing them up to speed on your business and your history, your core messages? And so all of the training platform that's in CloudRadial that empowers you to provide training to your clients can use to power training to their end users as well. And again, that company that you're selling to, especially on the 50-person firm on up, is not a monolithic organization. There's different roles, different people. They all have different needs, and they all have slightly different budgets, right? The IT manager, maybe the person that's managing IT is dealing with that essentials budget, but the HR person is dealing with the ROI budget. And then again, as you work your way up and you become essential to the staff inside that company, the CEO is going to give you any time of the day that you need to talk about bigger issues. So again, Chip, I mean, if I understand correctly, your bread and butter basically is the corporate market. And it's proven. I mean, I think that's what the essential term there is. Again, as you dealt with that corporate market, it's proven up the scale for much larger companies than most MSPs would work with.
Yeah, we kind of stumbled into that market. I mean, my background is in the IT channel, and we started Bigger Brains as a channel-centric company. But then around 2014, 2015, because we were creating so much Microsoft training in particular, and there's not a lot of companies that do that, the corporate training market kind of discovered us. And since then, that's become a large part of our business. We won a lot of awards. We were named Best IT Training by eLearning Magazine for their last 5 years in business. They actually went out of business in 2019. We won awards from trainingindustry.com and Craig Weiss Group and several others in the industry. So yeah, there's a lot of big companies that are paying tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of dollars for this same training. And the great thing about having it available through CloudRadial and through the MSP program is these smaller companies can get that same training without having to spend, big bucks. But to your point, that is a different part of the business oftentimes. So it's important too, when you're bidding, when you're talking to a new client and they may be considering you and other vendors, to make sure that they're aware that this is part of the value you bring, because they may need to go talk to HR or talk to somebody else to say, hey, is this something we need? And, if HR comes back and says, oh, that's going to save us $1,000 a month on our learning platform, well, that's just another advantage to doing business with you.
Yeah. And I think that's the key. And it's one thing, at the beginning of this presentation, we talked about bringing in expertise into CloudRadial from all these different sources. And with Bigger Brains, again, you're not getting training that's designed for MSPs, you're getting training that's designed for corporations. And the MSPs can benefit from all of that vast knowledge and those vast resources to help the small and medium business, thrive as well as the larger ones. Is there any, I'm not seeing, I don't know if we have an issue. Last time we had an issue with chat. I'm not sure if we have an issue with chat today, but I'm not seeing any questions out there. There's one that, again, there's 35. If you go to the link that's on the screen now, that will show you what's included with CloudRadial. The Bigger Brains courses are priced at $40 per 100 users. So it's very affordable for anybody. You can add them in blocks of 100. And all you have to do inside of CloudRadial is check the box for the client that says you want Bigger Brains. So we've made it, again, it's one checkbox away. If you'll go to partner clients, then you'll be able to easily turn that on. So there are some Q&A. Okay. So again, I'm not sure. Oops, I'm not sure where we stand with chat, but it looks like, again, it looks like that's not going to work today. But
Q&A is working though. If anybody has questions, they can type in the Q&A. Thanks to Christopher for testing that.
Yeah. Any final thoughts, Chip?
Well, I'll say this, in the learning world, there's this big trend towards what's called workflow learning, which is basically the idea that learning should not be separate. It shouldn't be a separate activity. It should be something that is as integrated into the worker's flow of work as possible. Because whenever you're asking people, employees, whatever, to take an extra step, to go and log into the learning management system, to go and schedule a class for training, or to go to the local conference or whatever, those extra steps are a barrier. And it's, each step along the way is one reason why they might not take the training. The best way to get training into the flow of work is to make it easily accessible through an app that they have available on their desktop that they're accessing every day. And so that's part of the big benefit of having the training right there inside CloudRadial, easy to get to, no extra steps, right in front of them, and the training's instantly available. So I think you guys are actually cutting edge from the learning and development side to make the training front and center without any extra boundaries.
Yeah, again, I think we've been working together now for, it seems like years. I can't remember not working together with you.
It's been a while
in the CloudRadial space. There's a question in the Q&A related to when Bigger Brains, we may not be showing the tracking of the Bigger Brains courses. I know we track it internally so that people can return back to that. For that, I'll open up a bug ticket and see what the status of that is, because it seems like it should be doing that.
The courses should report back a percentage of where they are, but that is often one of the more one of the issues we often have integration issues with, is because every learning platform does it a little bit differently. So maybe something we should need to take a look at.
Yeah, and then the other question relates to how you configure, because again, if you've got 35 free modules, you've also got like older, you support older versions of Office in case people are still on CD-ROMs, and that happens. It's still out there. So if you look at those courses, all of those courses are in our content library, and the content library is basically a multi-client content management system. And so you can configure those packages however you want. You can delete courses out of there. So again, when we provide you the course catalog, you can either merge in the updates, you can delete out any courses you want. And if for some reason you make a mess of it, you can always re-download everything and reinstall all of the course content. So basically the Bigger Brains courses are treated like every other piece of content in CloudRadial. And so it's easy to pick a range of courses that you want. And so it also gives you the flexibility to deploy, especially as you go to the more advanced Bigger Brains courses, to maybe deploy the HIPAA courses to only the people that have medical or governed by BAA. And on some of the other courses, if they're a Google shop, you may not want to put all the Microsoft Teams content in there. So that's a really solid way to do that. The descriptions, we can work on that. I know we've got somebody's wanting more detailed descriptions of the course. For the most part, I will say Chip is a genius at putting together the training. I don't know that he's a genius at his innovative training titles. So if it says Mastering Teams Basics, it's probably the description of the course right now as well. So again, go ahead.
We do have, if you want to go to our main website, getbiggerbrains.com, there is a searchable portfolio there of all the courses, and they all have descriptions. They also have a free sample of each, and we do have code that you can actually put on your website, each MSP's website, that has that same portfolio. So you can we designed it as an iframe. So you can load an iframe on your website that's automatically updated with all of our courses. There's no links back to our website. There's no pricing or anything. It's just an easy way to keep an updated list of courses, and along with a free sample. Each course has a free YouTube sample embedded in those pages as well.
Sounds like we need to put that on our site. Like maybe we need to fix the CloudRadial site to have some of that stuff too. That would be good.
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Yeah, we should. And then yeah, so I think that's, the detailed descriptions are there. We just need to get them more visible.
I see somebody's asking about live training, and yeah, I do know several MSPs that are doing both. I mean, that used to be a thing, and it still is a thing. I mean, there's some MSPs that do have a specialty in training. There's some where that's their primary business, and many of them do their live classes and also have our courses. The interesting thing is, when I got started, I thought that e-learning would be a great complement to live training. And so we originally suggested people reach out to live training companies in their area to see about doing a partnership. And what we found is that most companies that are specializing in live training, at least back then, this is 10 years ago, but I think it's still kind of true, they see e-learning as just pure competition. They want nothing to do with it. And it's kind of crazy, because it's not like, them not offering e-learning doesn't mean their customers aren't going to find it somewhere else. But that's been the challenge with a lot of like pure training companies. But for MSPs who are doing both, I think it's a great way to do it, because you're always going to have some people who are going to benefit from the live training. And it can be a great upsell to your live training to say, hey, come to our workshop. It's going to be $300 or whatever. And for an extra $50, we'll include access to our online library for, additional reinforcement down the road, or, however you want to do it. But yeah, I think it's a great compliment.
I think it's also a great way when you're in the onboarding package, because typically there's an onboarding project that's charged separately. It's also a great opportunity to roll in maybe a premium onboarding package, which includes more training, maybe potentially on devices or workstations, and they use that as a way to increase your margins on your original onboarding process. The other thing is to ask, right? I mean, as you work with these clients, again, there's kind of a motto that I've followed over time, and you might have seen it sometimes in the product, but you brochure it, you sell it, and then you build it. And so as you work with a client, say, look, would you like to take advantage of our live training? If they say no, you're fine, right? If they say yes, you need to build that by Monday and get the team in place to be able to deliver that. And I think, again, as you work through some of the stuff, again, as you work with your clients will tell you what they want if you'll just ask them, right? If you'll hold that up as an option, they'll tell you whether they want live training or not live training, whether they want a premium on their onboarding package or not. You just have to give them the vision of what that might look like, and think about aspirationally how you sell it to them, so that they will understand it's not a technical requirement. It's a way for them to, again, make more money, reduce the risk inside their organization.
I'll add one caveat to that, though. When you're talking to your clients about it, you've got to be specific, because my last MSP, I've built 4, but the last one I had, we actually built out a classroom when we first opened it, with the goal of offering training. And we had talked to some prospective customers, and we were actually getting started by buying an existing MSP. So we talked to some of their customers, and we did get a lot of positive feedback that people were interested in training. This was before Bigger Brains. But what happened is we opened, and so we started scheduling some training classes. Back then it was like Excel and Windows and cybersecurity. And what we found is if we scheduled them in the mornings, we would get like 1 or 2 people that signed up, and 10 or 12 people that said, oh, mornings are not good for me. If you could schedule it in the afternoons, then we could come. And so we would switch, and we'd schedule them in the afternoons, and we get 1 or 2 people that signed up, and we get 10 or 12 that say, oh, the afternoons are not good for me. If you could schedule it in the evenings. And we never did find a time where we could get enough of a critical mass of people for any given topic to make it worth our while. But again, that's the big benefit of e-learning. For less than the cost of a single class, you can give somebody a library of 200 courses. They can take whatever they want, whenever they want, and it's easy to do.
Yeah. I think that, again, the idea of selling it before you build it it's so essential when you don't have the money to build it and hope. And again, as you go out and work with these small clients. Again, there's tons of opportunities. The world is shifting dramatically. If you've seen Chat GPT, you've seen all the things out there. The technology underpinnings of this whole industry are going to change again. I think when you have all of that in place, again, the world's going to be changing. And again, MSP should be talking to their clients so they can see what's coming next, right? So again, we know the focus today is on security. We don't know what the focus 5 years is going to be. And I think that's where it becomes very interesting. One last question, training videos for clients on how to navigate CloudRadial. We have, there was a webinar last week that Ricky Cicchini did that basically we're rolling out in this week and next week, a whole bunch more resources for training. One of the things that's in there, because we've always had a trouble with training videos for clients because we encourage you to white label it. And we don't necessarily like to show you somebody else's portal or our portal when it doesn't match yours. Very seldom do people leave the sidebar alone. Do they need things named? One of the things that we promote quite a bit is Camtasia. We do most of all of our video work on Camtasia because it's a great screen capture and sharing tool. And so the idea there is if you've got 5 or 10 minutes, you can really create a decent video for your clients to understand how to navigate your version of CloudRadial. We'll be glad to help you every way we can to provide the content or scripts. Again, reach out to Ricky and let him know, or basically just write support, and then they can forward those to Ricky. But again, when you look at the training, again, we've got the learning management system built in, so you've got that. Camtasia is a great way to record that content. And then every project you do, I mean, this goes back to the learning management systems built into CloudRadial. Do a Camtasia video to show how to use the project you delivered. So if you roll out SharePoint for a user, spend 10 minutes, do a Camtasia screen share of it, show people how to navigate that, put it in your course library along with all the Bigger Brains content, and then show people how to use what you just delivered, right? Rather than like pass out a note or send an email or just hope that they know what they're supposed to be doing. Do a Camtasia video, share it and put it in, store it on YouTube, another great source of SEO and potential new clients. But then use that YouTube video inside of CloudRadial to drive their education and training about what you just did, right? So every project can be either with a sign-off or with a training video. And of course, we just think it works better when it's a training video and a sign-off, right? So.
Definitely.
All right. Any other questions? I think coming up near the end, if there's no more questions, Chip, I sure appreciate you joining us today. And again, it's been a great partnership. I think
agreed.
I know based on some of the stats I see, you've trained a lot of people through CloudRadial. And again, I think every time we do that, we just again open up the door for bigger and better things, both on the client side, on the MSP side, and then hopefully in that engaged client and MSP side. So
absolutely.
Chip, thanks for joining me today, and thanks for everyone for attending.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Great to see everybody. Thanks.